It's the Stalybridge Celtic Lockdown Podcast, sponsored by Old's Beer and More and the Celtic Beer Hut. Aha! Stay tuned for more.
We're here for the fourth episode of the Celtic Lockdown Podcast, and we're here with former winger Mitch Austin. So I'd just like to welcome Mitch onto the podcast. We're going to talk a bit about Mitch's career, focus more on Celtic, and then what Mitch is up to now at the moment. I'm also glad to announce that the Celtic podcast is now sponsored by Sean Bishop and Ella Bishop with their companies Old's Beer and More, which is a new bottle shop that's going to be opening in Stalybridge, and the Celtic Beer Hut, which you would have seen on the Bowerfold terraces. If you can go and give them a follow on their socials, their social medias have just been set up for Old's Beer Hut and More. Their Instagram is Old's Beer and More, and so is their Facebook, and on Twitter it is Old's Beer, so go give them a follow. So Mitch, you were one of few Australians to play for Stalybridge Celtic. Your career started at Rotherham in England. Just tell me a bit about how it came about that you ended up at Rotherham before you signed for Stalybridge.
Basically just came over on a tour when I was, I think it was 15, 16. I just sort of left school. Joined, I was at Manly United in Australia. So we had like a sort of a UK tour organised to kind of go around a few different clubs and play some games. And because I was English, had an English passport, and we had family and stuff here, my mum wanted to kind of do an extra week and see the family, and I kind of randomly we played Rotherham on a sort of a friendly game, and they invited me to kind of train for an extra week, which sort of worked out well with us staying back. So yeah, I trained with them for a week, and yeah, they were quite impressed. So I kind of said to them I had to go back and finish my. I still had, I think it was 3 or 2 terms left of school, so I finished that off and then flew back over and trained with them again, and they said they wanted to sign me on a it was a 2-3 year contract at the time. So yeah, I did 2 years in the youth team there, with a short stint in Sweden on loan before coming back. I think it was around Christmas time. I'm not 100% sure on the date, but yeah, I joined Stalybridge Celtic then.
So you joined Stalybridge. For some people that might not know and might not have seen you play, just describe yourself, what sort of player you are. Obviously you're a winger, but what sort of winger are you?
I think I was quick. That was kind of what I think I've been known throughout most of my career, as just being quick. But yeah, I like to think I have other aspects to my game. I think my crossing ability has always been one of my strengths, I think. And I tend to sort of chip in with a few goals each season as well. But I think I'm a player that likes to get in behind and sort of get in behind the defence and play the early balls in behind for the strikers.
So you spent just under 3 years at Stalybridge. You played 85 games, scored 13 goals. Just explain to us a bit about how it came about that you signed there. Was it because we were full time, and how did you find settling into non-league after being at Rotherham?
Yeah, I think that was sort of one of the main draws. I think, like I say, I was 20 maybe at the time, 21. So yeah, obviously I was still young enough to wanting to keep playing full time. And yeah, it was a major draw card of going there. And I'm not 100% sure who I messaged someone. I can't remember whether it was Tim Ryan or I got someone's number at the club. And sorry, it was Alan Keeling at the time. So originally I came down and trained with I think it was the sort of the reserves at the time. Before Jim Harvey. I think we might have played a game or something against the first team, and he said to me, like, you can come and train with us full time now. So yeah, that's kind of where it started, really.
So you signed for Stalybridge, and you played there full time. what was it? I think when I look back at the records, you struggled to get game time at first. How did you find it breaking into the first team eventually?
Yeah, I think I joined around Christmas time, so I joined sort of halfway through the season, the first season. So I found it. I think it was more just transitioning into the team. I think there was quite a lot of players that were older than me, and obviously had played at that level. I think a bit longer. So I think it was more just sort of proving myself that I was kind of up to playing at sort of Conference North level at the time. Proving to the coaches I was good enough. I think at that level, it's always about kind of, getting trust off the coaches that they can, play you. I think when you come from sort of youth team reserve level at football league, it doesn't really matter about results and things like that. It's just on kind of performance. But, at that level, it's all about, winning games. So you've got to get the trust of the coaches. So I feel like, as the first season went along, I think I just sort of mainly came on as an impact sub. And then following into the second season, I sort of was kind of, in and out of the team. I think the second part of the season, I started to start a few more games. And then it was sort of my third season there, really, where I think I pretty much started about 40 odd games, I think, in my third season. So that's where I really broke into the team.
Yeah, when I was looking back through it, it was in your last season before you left, the team was sort of written off in January, February time to be relegated. And if you look back, that was sort of when you hit your best form after that. I think you scored 6 or 7 goals in the next 10 to 15 games, and we ended up staying up. What if you had to pick a highlight from your Celtic career? What would you say it was?
I'd say probably that third season. I think I enjoyed my football the most. I mean, although we didn't probably do as well as what we wanted to do. I think Jim Harvey at the time brought in quite a lot of sort of young players. And obviously we were coming up against a lot of, elder experienced players week in, week out. So I think as the ladder of the season went on, I think we kind of, gelled as a team, and, we sort of got used to the league, what to expect. And because I say a lot of the players came from, Liverpool and academies, and, we're coming into this league, and it's, it was a Conference North to sort of Premier League academy and that sort of thing. It's a different style of football, so it takes a while to get used to it. But I think for me, maybe those last sort of 10, 15 games, I think I felt the fittest and probably strongest I was. I think the full-time sort of training and gym training and all that sort of stuff allowed me to kind of kick on in the the second part of the season, which I think really improved my game.
Before we move on to when you left Stalybridge, you mentioned when you signed for Rotherham, you only came over to see family originally. When you signed for Rotherham in the end after finishing school, did you come back over by yourself without family?
Yeah, I came on my own, so that was quite an eye opener. I mean, to be honest, since then I've sort of done most things on my own since then. Which I think it's sort of, grounded me as a person and made me grow up, pretty quickly, because we were put into sort of a digs with a family I didn't know. And, I think obviously coming from the other side of the world, being so comfortable in Australia and coming back here with not really any family, it was a bit difficult at first. But yeah, I think, when you're a kid, you kind of have an option of, continuing. I still had another sort of 2 years of school left to do. So it was kind of like, do you want to go and play, football full time and train full time, or do you want to finish and do your last 2 years of school? So I think at that age, it's like, well, definitely going to be doing, football, because that's sort of all you want to do, really. So I think the first couple of weeks I was a bit homesick a bit, but I knew I was kind of there because I wanted to, improve as a player. And in Australia, we kind of didn't have that full time training aspect and things. It was sort of, train a couple of nights a week, that was kind of the elite level out there. So to come here and be able to train every day, I knew I needed to do that to become a professional player. So yeah, it was definitely worth it. And I think it kind of gave me sort of the career of, playing football for as long as I have so far.
So you come to the end of your service sort of career. Like I mentioned before that was probably your best period before you left. How did you end up going from Conference North to then it come about that you signed for Cambridge?
It was kind of, I think, like I say, the last sort of, 10, 15 games, I was doing quite well. And it was one of the other lads that was there, his agent kind of just got onto me and basically he reckoned I could play higher, and he had a few contacts and things, and he knew the Cambridge scout, and I think he just sort of recommended them to come and watch me. And I think they'd come a three or four games. And he messaged me to say, they're coming to the last game. I think when we played Halifax, I think we had a man sent off. I think Callum Warburton got straight red early doors. But yeah, I scored in the game and did quite. I think I started playing striker. I think the last couple of games. I scored a few goals. But yeah, I just remember when I did sign for Cambridge, the coach kind of said we left after 10 minutes. Like after I scored that goal, he said, we knew we wanted to sign you after that. So he said they left. So it just sort of came about that really. I think a lot of football's kind of just sort of being in the right place at the right time and kind of having, a lot of it is knowing people in the game. And I think I didn't really know many people. So that agent sort of helped me out there in terms of moving up the football pyramid, which I appreciated.
So you moved to Cambridge, so it's a bit of a way away from Stalybridge, and it's fair to say that it was a bit stop-start there, and then you had 3 loan spells, I think, as well, going to Lincoln, Brackley, and Southport. One of the things that stood out when you went out on loan was when you went to Lincoln, and Lincoln tried to keep you for longer, and Cambridge took you back and didn't end up giving you opportunities. Why did that happen?
Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare, really. Like I said, I think when I first went there throughout pre-season, when I first went to Cambridge, I played most of the games, and then literally the last game we played Norwich in a pre-season friendly game, and I rolled my ankle in the game, so I was out for about 2 or 3 weeks, which allowed one of the other lads to obviously start. And to be fair to him, he did well in the first couple of games and ended up sort of keeping his place. So I found it a bit difficult, sort of coming off the bench here and there. But obviously, it was a bit hard to sort of establish myself and get a proper chance. And then, like I say, I got a loan move to Lincoln where I was kind of playing at the same level week in, week out, and it was a good club to be at. And then, I kind of got recalled after a month, and it was like, oh, okay. So I came back, and then same thing, didn't play. So after another 2 months or so, I was kind of like, what's the go here? And they ended up, I think it was Brackley. I think I went on loan to. I was just that desperate. I think the transfer window was kind of coming to an end, and I just wanted to get out and just kind of play. I was sort of sick of just training. So there was an Australian coach at the time at Brackley, funnily enough. So he took me on loan, and I played some games there. And same thing, I got recalled again, and I think didn't play again. So it was kind of frustrating, really. That kind of sort of summed up my time really at Cambridge. I just sort of didn't get a run of games, and I was definitely felt I was good enough, but for some reason, I don't know, it just didn't happen for me there. So just one of them things. So obviously, I moved on in the end. Yeah.
I mean, like you said before, it's about being in the right place at the right time. It's also about having luck as well in football, isn't it? And when that sort of thing happens to you in the last pre-season game, you just think, why did it happen to me? Sort of things. How did you cope with that? The frustrating time at Cambridge.
Yeah, it was difficult, really. I mean, like I said, I didn't really have many sort of friends there, but luckily I was kind of living in it was like a clubhouse, so there was 4 or 5 of the other lads that were in the house, so we're all quite close. So it was just good kind of having them there, because you can kind of come home and vent your frustration, and there's other players sort of going through the same thing as well. So that was kind of a good thing. I wasn't just going home on my own and just sort of sitting there and thinking, it's sort of end of the world type thing. But like I said, I knew I was good enough to kind of play. So it was just, like I say, it was a matter of just trying to be at the right place at the right time to get a bit of luck, which I knew I'd get eventually. So yeah, it was just being patient really in the end.
So we come to the end of Cambridge, and that's when you return back to Australia. What sort of caused that move to come after coming over to England to go back to Australia and sign for Central Coast Mariners?
It was just kind of weird, really. I mean, I'd kind of come to the end of my Cambridge career, and I was sort of thinking, like, where do I kind of go from here, type thing. And yeah, the A-League was getting quite big, and they're playing good stadiums, and they had quite a lot of top players. From when I left anyway, it wasn't as big, but over the last sort of 5-6 years at the time, it just kind of got bigger each year. So yeah, I mean, to be honest, at the end of the Cambridge, I was close to kind of just, I kind of lost interest a bit in playing because I was just a bit frustrated. So I was tempted to kind of just look at something else. But kind of same thing. I had an agent kind of message me on Facebook, kind of say, "Oh, would you be interested in, maybe playing in the A-League?" And it was just something I've been so sort of focused on kind of playing in England and sort of trying to make it there that I never really thought about playing in the A-League. So I was kind of sat in my room, and it was, hammering down with rain outside, sort of end of the season. I kind of thought, yeah, to be fair, I wouldn't actually mind giving it a go and seeing if, something could happen. And I kind of ended up just sort of selling all my stuff, and I booked a flight back without even telling my parents or anyone, and kind of just rocked up at the house, not being there for about 6 years. And everyone was a bit surprised. I think Mum was crying and everything when I got back. So it was about, I think, second day I got there, the Central Coast manager just messaged me saying, "Oh, are you back in Australia?" Because I made a bit of a highlights video to kind of send to them. And I wasn't expecting to I thought maybe I'd have to go and sort of train or something, because I don't think they knew too much about me sort of over in the UK. So I met him for a coffee, and he kind of messaged me the next day saying he wanted to sign me, and I was like, "Oh, okay," like a bit amazed, to be honest. So I signed a 2-year contract there, and it was kind of just, funnily enough, sort of the best football I think I'd played while I was there. So just one of them things. It was just sort of being in the right place at the right time, and a manager, I guess, at the time took a chance on me. But it's kind of the same thing, I signed there, and I kind of played all the way up through pre-season as kind of, they wanted me to sort of be an impact sub, similar thing. But the guy, I think it was about a week before the first game of the season, the guy that was playing on the wing actually did his hamstring. So yeah, I kind of got my chance in the first game, and got man of the match, and kind of kept my place for the whole season then.
Yeah, and he played regular football at Central Coast. And I remember keeping an eye on it, and he was impressive. But you come to the second year and you terminate your contract and go to Melbourne Victory. Did you terminate your contract just so you could go to Melbourne?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, I had another year left, but it was sort of the first time in my career, I think, where I'd had a lot of clubs like wanting to sign me, and kind of never had that sort of interest in me before. From, I think I had a choice of pretty much every club in the league kind of that were trying to sign me at the time. And Melbourne Victory was pretty much the biggest club in the country, and they sort of averaged 25 to 30,000 every game at Amy Park. So it was a massive club, and something I felt like I kind of deserved to give it a go after the season I had. So yeah, I mean, it was a bit difficult in terms of trying to get there, but I was sort of determined to make it work, and it was a bit hard in terms of they don't do transfer fees and things like that in the A-League. It's you're either coming off contract to move team, or they do sort of a player swap type thing. So in the end, the two clubs agreed a player swap for me and someone else. So eventually, I got there on a 2-year contract. So I was really happy at the time.
So you signed for the biggest club in Australia at the time, and then let's say you have one of your highlights there where you picked up a man of the match in a pre-season friendly against Juventus. What was that like?
Yeah, it was, like I say, it was, I think, even one of the draw cards, but I knew, I think it was the International Champions Cup or something, I think it was called. Yeah. So we had I think it was Juventus, Tottenham and Atletico Madrid came out, and we were in the competition as well. So I kind of signed, and we sort of, I think once I signed, it was the first game was Juventus in 2 weeks, and I was like, oh, flipping heck. I think all the lads were a bit 2 weeks to kind of get ready to play them. So, but it was kind of good because we got there first day of pre-season, and we're kind of straight into the football side of things and getting the tactics right. So I think the coach at the time obviously wanted us to give a good account for ourselves against, a world-class team. So I think I've worked hard over pre-season and made sure I was fit. So, it came to obviously starting against Juventus, and I kind of got told, look, everyone's just going to sort of get half a game each, that sort of thing. I ended up playing the full 90 minutes. So I was absolutely knackered after it. But just it was kind of a reward, I think, for sort of my hard work over the years and kind of, nearly sort of throwing the towel in it at times. And I was kind of, like I say, lining up against, world-class players who were there at the time. I was quite proud, and it was to get man of the match as well was something I never thought that I'd ever sort of achieve, in my lifetime. So it was a really good night. It was a good memory for myself and my family as well.
Did you get any mementos from the game?
Sorry?
Did you get any mementos from the game?
What do you mean? As in
keep or anything like that?
Yeah, I got a trophy that says it's got the Audi Cup, and it's got Melbourne victory versus Juventus man of the match with my name on it. So I've got that in the trophy cabinet at home. So it's nice to look at from time to time.
So you spent up until 2018 at Melbourne victory. How would you say your time was there?
Like I said, I think I started the first 9 or 10 games, I think, while I was there. I started off really well. I mean, I think I was 4 goals in the first 6 league games or something like that. I was doing really well, and then a similar thing, I did my ankle again, and I was out for I think a month and a half, which allowed someone else to come in, and then once I obviously got back, it was kind of, the other player was one of our visa international players, because I did quite well to keep him sort of out of the team at the start, because he'd been one of the main wingers for most of the time. And in the A-League you have 5 foreign players per each team, and generally the 5 foreign players usually play every game. So to keep him out for the first sort of 10 games, I knew I was doing quite well. So, but he was a top class player, so I knew it was going to be difficult to obviously keep him out for a long period of time. And obviously when I got injured, that allowed him to get back in, and he sort of played most of sort of the second part. I mean, I started probably maybe a quarter of the remaining games, and I was sort of coming on as a sub. But I'd say we got to the grand final, whereas unfortunately we lost. I think there's about 60,000 or something there at that game. So it was disappointing. I didn't get to get on. But it was obviously it was a good experience, and I felt like my first season for such a big club, it was a positive start.
So after that, you then have a spell at Newcastle Jets and Sydney FC. How were they?
Like I say, I'd done my cruciate second season at Melbourne, So I missed a lot of the sort of the season there. And then coming back, obviously I'd signed for Newcastle, so I was kind of just finding my feet again after a lengthy layoff. And yeah, it was a bit of a strange one. Like I said, the coach there kind of had been wanting to sign me for a long time. And I finally got there, and then he kind of, don't know, he sort of envisioned me playing more of a sort of a central type role, whereas I was just more of an out and out winger. That was more my position and where I felt I did the most damage. And yeah, he kind of more wanted me to play inside and be more of a central kind of midfield sort of role. And yeah, I didn't really take to it. I gave it my best sort of thing, but it was a bit frustrating because, whenever I did play on the wing, I always played my best football. And yeah, it just kind of got to a point around sort of Christmas time where I thought I need to try and get a change here and maybe try and find somewhere where I can get some minutes. But I had a couple of clubs. It was either Brisbane Roar or sort of Sydney FC, which was the team I sort of supported as I was growing up. But I mean, there was only kind of 5 months left of the season, and it was going to be difficult for me to my best option would have been to go to Brisbane and properly play. But it was like, it's another state, and I thought it's going to be difficult in terms of having to move again. And, it was just easier, to be honest, at the time to finish out at Sydney FC for the rest of the season. But I knew it was going to be difficult because, the top of the league and the players they had there, and he wanted me to play as a striker at the time as well. So, yeah, I kind of got there and didn't play as much as I would have liked. But I mean, we're in the Asian Champions League, and I got a couple of games in that, which was kind of what I wanted to do. So we got to travel to China. We played against Shanghai SIPG. We had like Hulk, Oscar, I think their front three was worth about £150 million a season type thing. So, going there and sort of playing against them, and we drew 2-2 there. So, yeah, it was good. And we had some good players in the team. So we had Adam Lafondra up front, who he was actually one of our main players while I was at Rotherham when I was in the youth team. So, so a player I sort of looked up to. So it was kind of a bit of a full circle to then eventually sort of play a game with him up top was kind of a nice thing after a long time to do. Yeah, that's some good. Sim de Jong from Ajax was there on loan. He'd been the Ajax captain for 3 or 4 years, so it was good to kind of learn off them. And to be honest, I was sort of learning a new position. So yeah, it was a good experience. But obviously, I would have liked to have played a lot more. But it was a sort of a privilege to play for Sydney FC, which was the team I supported as I grew up. So to actually pull on the shirt was quite a special feeling in the end.
Before we move on to your next club, you had a lengthy spell in Australia, and you mentioned about the Juventus game and stuff like that. What are there any other happy memories you have from the time? Because obviously you're playing in the main league in Australia and playing in front of a lot of fans. You have memories from there?
Yeah, it was great. Like I say, the stadiums, you playing in sort of, like I always say to my friends who say, what's it like, sort of the A-League standard, and I feel like it's the coverage and everything you get, like it's like Premier League coverage from every game's on TV, all the analysis and things they do out there on the games, and they have a show on it called the Round Table where they dissect all players and the games, and everything's sort of run like it's broadcasted like it's a Premier League sort of league. And like I say, the stadiums, the pitches, I think that was one of the reasons why I did quite well, because like I say, the pitches are like carpet. It was a different sort of style of football in terms of everything was kind of on the deck, and it was a lot more tactical in that sort of sense, whereas I think obviously the English football is a lot more direct and physical. But yeah, I had some really good memories from a time there, and like I said, I think in the future I'm hoping to go back at at some point. I think I'm going to, like I said, I think next season I'm going to try and sort of club out in the UK to get some games again going forward. And yeah, hopefully in the future I can get back to the A-League at some point, which would be good to finish my career off.
Yeah. So how does it come about after having such a good spell in Australia that you end up signing in Scotland for Partick Thistle?
Like I said, it was through my agent really. Basically, I was going to sign for Perth Glory. I was in Perth, training with them, pretty close to signing with them. And they were having a friendly against Man United that I was quite looking forward to hopefully playing in. But yeah, just I think the fact I'd kind of been in the A-League for, like I say, I was going on my 5th or 6th this season, and I kind of wanted a bit of a change. It sort of came about out of nowhere, really. As a player, Kenny Miller, one of Scotland's best players, he was there, and I spoke to him and the coach. And yeah, they kind of sort of ticked all the boxes in terms of the sort of way they wanted to play. And I watched some of the videos, and because I thought Scotland was just kind of direct and long ball, but after watching quite a few of the games, I actually realised that they do play out from the back, and he sort of wanted me to play how it sort of played out here in the A-League. So I just kind of thought, why not? I thought it was an experience where I'd get to kind of travel, and I sort of had this vision of wanting to do a proper European trip in terms of wanting to travel in Europe again, which I'd not properly done. So yeah, I thought it'd be a good experience, get to play in Scotland for a season, and I'd get to sort of travel around Europe. So that was kind of the plan, really. And yeah, it kind of didn't work out as well as I wanted to, as I picked up a bit of a knock on my knee when I got there first, and the coach who had signed me basically had gotten sacked before I even got to play a game after a couple of months. So the new coach that came in basically said to me, "Oh, look, like you can go back to Australia." So I was like, "Look, I've moved all the way over here," type thing. I'm not just going to go back, and I've just got back fit from my injury and stuff. And yeah, he basically told me, "Look, like you're not going to play." So it was really hard to take, because I was more than good enough to play there. But I think this new coach kind of didn't want any of the players that the old guy signed, the previous coach signed. So it's kind of something I just had to sort of deal with, really. But I didn't have enough time to kind of sort of move out to get back to Australia before sort of the window closed, and it was a bit of a nightmare, really. So I sort of just had to bide my time, and I played a few of the friendly games they organised, and I did well. But I kind of knew what the case was, and then obviously COVID sort of hit around sort of end of February time or whatever, and then we kind of got put on hold, really, with everything, and sort of didn't know what was happening, really. I sort of cancelled my contract to fly back, so I thought it's not looking good with this, and I've basically couldn't get a flight back. So I've sort of been stuck in the UK sort of ever since that, really. And even now, it's a nightmare to get back. I think we were a year into lockdown now, and sort of still here. But I think, like I say, I think my plans have kind of changed now. And like I said, I want to do a season in the UK, and because I've just been a bit hit and miss with a few injuries over the last few seasons. So I just want to get my body 100%. And yeah, get sort of cracking next season. I'm not sure what's happening with sort of I think the Stalybridge League, and everything's sort of been put on hold and everything now, haven't they? I just seen, I think there's a Conference North and South have just been, made null and void as well. So yeah, it's a bit of just crazy times, really. I think everyone just kind of needs to just, like I say, get this season and get these next few months out of the way, and hopefully things kind of go back to normal for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to hear. I mean, when you talk about your plans for coming up, have you fully recovered now, and have you got anything lined up possibly for in the future, or is it just seeing what comes about when we fully restart?
I'm getting a sort of minor surgery on my knee. I think my problem was I tried to kind of put it off and do the sort of the non-surgery option of just trying to rehab it with gym stuff and that, and it's kind of just kept flaring back up really, and it's got to the point where I've nearly pretty much missed most of this season now, trying to just do the shortcut basically to get back quickly. And I just kind of said to myself a few weeks ago, look, I need to just do it the right way. It's going to take longer, but I'd rather just get it right and then focus on kind of getting my body 100%, and then sorting the club for next season. But I had quite a few sort of options. I had an option in League One that I could have possibly gone to, but it's been frustrating because I've had options, but like I say, my knees kind of just let me down the last few months. But it's partly myself to blame, because I should have got it sorted in the summer really, and I would have been fine. But the fact of kind of let it go on for so long, and tried to put surgery off it. I know I would have been back quite a few months ago. So yeah, it's a lesson learned really. So I'm just going to get it done and get the rehab and focus on pre-season in July, and be 100% and ready to go wherever that's going to be.
It's good to see, and I look forward to seeing that. Before we go back to your time on Staley Bridge, we'll just touch a bit off football, well, sort of off football. You're off the pitch, you're quite well known in the sort of esports section and in football, in FIFA, and I think I've seen you on Call of Duty as well, sort of stuff like that.
Yeah.
You partnered with Is that a hobby that you're looking to continue pursuing, and then after your career as well?
Yeah, definitely something I just sort of enjoy kind of doing in my spare time. But like I say, well, I properly got into it when I did my knee in Melbourne the first time. I played for they had like a equivalent of the A League. It was a E League. So we all flew up to Sydney, and there was a studio there where we played on a Thursday night. So basically, the club sort of said to me, because they knew I was quite well known in sort of the FIFA community out there in Australia, they kind of asked me to play and see if we could find someone else to kind of join with me as a teammate. So yeah, it went well. I think they kind of liked the aspect of having an A League player kind of compete in the E League at the time as well. So which was a bit of a draw card kind of thing for the E League. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. It was just a different experience, kind of, you don't sort of realize the sort of pressure you're under when you're there playing, with the camera and lights in a proper studio. And, I was playing against like sort of professional FIFA players that, a lot of them are sort of full time and get paid for it. So, I had a bit of a sketchy start where I lost a few at the start, but I did I think I won 2 or 3 games, sort of the back end of the season, which was good, and I was quite surprised about. But yeah, it was something I enjoyed, and I sort of got into sort of streaming it on Twitch kind of after that, and I've sort of progressed with it. But it's kind of one of them things you've got to sort of do it on a regular basis, and I think a lot of my viewers were kind of in Australia type thing, so it's been a bit difficult moving to the UK with the time zone transition. So I've had to trying to find a bit of a UK viewer base and things, which has been good. And it's kind of just talking to different people and football fans, and yeah, it's something I enjoy. And I think down the line, once I finish playing, I'll definitely, whether I try to do it on a full-time basis or not, I'll keep on doing, just as a hobby for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about Mitch Austin retiring anytime soon, but have you got any plans for what you're going to do? I don't know, some people go into coaching and stuff like that, or have you not thought about that yet?
No, to be honest, I definitely want to go into kind of some form of esports kind of thing. I've spoke to a few people over here in terms of getting involved in the esports side of things. So like I say, I made, the good thing about that E-League thing, I made a lot of sort of contacts through there, in terms of, you know, different companies and things like that. So I definitely like to get involved in whether it's, you know, sort of a marketing aspect in esports, or you know, something along those kind of lines, I think. But yeah, it's something I'm definitely kind of looking at over sort of the next few years. And my sister's quite you know, sort of well known in that aspect, because she worked at EA Sports for a number of years as well. So we're both kind of, you know, we both kind of hosted the E-League at I think last year as well. So something like that maybe I'd maybe look at doing. And the E-League's kind of getting bigger and bigger, so I'll definitely, once I go back, I'll get back into, you know, hosting and you know, doing all that kind of thing on the E-League, which I quite enjoyed. So we'll see. It's one of them things. You know, you kind of just sort of take it as it comes. I think I've had a lot of mates that have kind of tried to plan for the future, and you know, it's difficult when you don't sort of know what sort of country you're going to be in, and you just it's hard to plan. But yeah, so I'm just going to just take it as it comes, really, and see how it plays out.
So we'll go back onto your time at Staley Bridge. Do you have any sort of good memories or stories from your time there, being there full time?
I think one of the best parts, I think we played Manchester United in a friendly. It was a bit of a random sort of friendly game during the week, during one of the seasons, which I played in, and we beat them 2-1. I scored a goal, and they had some pretty good. I think like Jesse Lingard played. I think Fletcher played. You know, Michael Keane played. Like there's a lot of, you know, talented players that were on the park. And you know, I think especially that second half, from what I can remember, we kind of played them off the park. Especially one of my good mates, still Greg Wilkinson. He was one of the best players that night. So yeah, it was that was definitely you know, a good memory at the time, and obviously going forward to see so many of them players, you know, establish themselves as sort of England internationals and that sort of thing. That was a sort of a good memory looking back, and I think it was a good result for Staley Bridge that night as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of spoke to you a bit over the last year or so. I remember meeting you and Greg and Andy McWilliams in Manchester one time where we bumped into you.
Yeah.
Do you keep in touch with many of your friends from Staley Bridge?
Yeah, I mean, Greg and Andy Mack are probably two of my best mates, to be fair, especially in England. You know, we're in we've got our own WhatsApp chat or whatever, so we're messaging all the time. And yeah, like I say, there's probably two of the guys I missed, I think, the most when I went back to Australia. So, you know, when I came back to Scotland, I think it was only a month or so of being in the country when they both came up to Scotland when we played Celtic. I think it was in a Scottish Cup game, so they came to the game, and yeah, we went out after that. So it was it was just been good to, you know, still have some friends here, but yeah, especially them two are, you know, two of my closest mates, which you know, we've got some good memories from the Staley Bridge days. And I think like I said, I think that night when we met you guys there that time, it was good to kind of reminisce on the old times of the Staley Bridge days, because for me, that there's some of, you know, best memories, I think, of being at Staley Bridge for those 3 years and sort of living in Manchester, and that I really enjoyed it.
So speaking more about your teammates in Staley Bridge as well, I'll ask you a couple of questions. So firstly, who was the best player you played with at Staley Bridge?
It's a tough one.
Can't just say Greg because he's your mate.
I know. I think talent-wise, I think probably. I think Adam Pepper. I think in my third season when he came, technically he was. I think one of the first players I had where I could kind of sort of make runs in behind, and he could he could find a pass. I did enjoy playing with him. But yeah, like I say, obviously, yeah, Wilco was a top player back then in his prime days. And yeah, I enjoyed playing with Andy Mack as well on the left. We had a bit of a good partnership down there until he joined the dark side and went across to Geisley, I think it was. So I still remember scoring against him. Absolutely put the shoulder into him on one of the goals I scored. I think we drew or won against Geisley. So, but yeah, there was some good players throughout my time there, and Phil Marshall was another top player as well. He scored consistently, at that level for Stalybridge. He was another top player as well.
Yeah, there's always that goal as well that Greg always talks about, where you flick it up for him and hits it on the volley. But to be fair to him, it was a good goal.
Yeah, it was a top goal. I've still hear about it today. Just never let that one go. But yeah, that was some strike. But yeah, I'm trying to think who we played in that game. That was I think it was a 4-1 win. I think it was one of them games. I think it was the second season when we just sort of bottled the top four. I think it was for the playoffs or whatever. I think we missed out on a point that season, didn't we? Which was a bit disappointing after we were top, I think, for quite a fair bit of the time. But yeah, looking back, that's probably one of the best goals I think I've seen at Stalybridge from Greg. So I'll give him that.
Yeah. Who's the best players that you've played with in your career in general so far?
Luis Garcia at Central Coast when he came out, he was 36 or 37. Like he couldn't run, but he just played in that number 10 role and just floated around, and he'd just find you with, you'd make runs thinking, he's never going to get that there, but he'd find you, and some of the goals he scored as well while he was there was, he was only there for sort of a short period of time, but I think just obviously at the time when I was at Central Coast, we were struggling a lot. So I think just having him come in kind of just boosted the entire team. I think really having someone that had sort of won the Champions League and played for, Barcelona with, top class players, and, played with Ronaldinho, who's like one of my idols growing up. So even, just having him talk about him and, lining up in the sort of same team as him was good. And it was a privilege to play with him at sort of, I know it was the back end of his career, but I really enjoyed it.
So again, with being full time, it's probably easier than someone that's around at Stalybridge now. But who was the worst dressed player that used to turn up at Stalybridge?
Worst dressed? Yeah. I'm gonna have to say Callum Warburton. It's a big statement, and he'll probably absolutely snap me in two if he watches this. But he was a top lad, and he was a top player as well. I thought in midfield, he was one of those hard battling players that you always kind of wanted on your team and not playing against him. But I do remember some of the lads giving him a bit of stick for his gear. Definitely,
yeah, he was a good player. Just unfortunate with his injuries, I think.
I did see that. I think he was his Achilles or something, didn't he? That sort of he struggled after that. So I'm not sure whether he's still playing around at all. But I wish him all the best.
And then the funniest player that you had at your time there.
Funniest player, Christian Platt, I think, was one of the funniest. I think there's a couple of the Scousers that we had there at the time, but Christian used to make me laugh a lot. Yeah, he was a good guy.
Yeah, finally, I remember speaking to Greg about this, and he didn't know how I knew, but the question was if you had to pick a five-a-side team, and I think I remember hearing about you, Greg, and maybe it was Andy as well, that had a five-a-side team at Cockney or something like that.
We did. It was I don't even know why we were doing that. Like I say, we were playing Saturday, Tuesday, and then somehow found the energy on a Thursday night to go and play five-a-side for Greg's. I think it was some of Greg's mates. But I remember all of us playing in it. A couple of them, I think it was a couple of Staley Bridge fans in it that recognised us, going like, "What the hell's going on here?" Like, but no, it was like I said. I think at that age we just sort of couldn't get enough of playing. And I think we were sort of early 20s, so we could just kind of, keep on playing. Really, if I tried to do that now on a Thursday before a game, I'd be struggling on the Saturday. But we had a good five-a-side team there. There was a couple of others that I think played sort of non-league as well. So it was a good evening.
Yeah, if you had to pick a dream one that you could have, then you don't have to have a goalkeeper if you don't want, and you can put yourself in from Staley Bridge players, what team would you pick?
I'd go Phil Marsh up top. I'd put myself on the left. I'd put Wilco on the right. And then holding as the last man of defence, I'd go Tim Ryan. And then I'd have Jan Butts in the net. That'd be my dream team. Tim would be just sweeping up after everyone, and probably get a few red cards as well, knowing him.
So that sort of brings us to the end of the podcast. I'd like to thank you for coming on. It's sort of an interesting career for someone. We don't really hear about someone going all over the world when they play for Staley Bridge as well. So it's good to hear that sort of stuff. And hopefully we'll see you back on the pitch playing next season once COVID's gone. So yeah, I'd just like to thank you for coming on and wish you all the best.
No problem. Thank you very much. And yeah, I hope Staley Bridge get back to playing football at sometime in the future. But hopefully, next season looks like when they're going to start back. So yeah, thanks for having me on, Betsy. And yeah, wish you guys all the best.
Yeah, no problem. Cheers, mate.